Hello and welcome back to CinemaBurger. I'm Scott Berger and I bring you movie reviews from a different perspective. Now today we're back with our Fast and the Furious series, and today it's time for Fast and the Furious 6. Now, Fast and the Furious 6 takes place about 9 months after Fast 5. Brian, Dom, Mia, and Elena are still living in Spain, and Brian and Dom are still racing trying to settle the score. Now they get word that Mia's giving birth, so they come back to the hospital and go in. Dom tells Brian, "You're a father now and your life has changed forever." And then we get a montage of the previous 4 movies, the Fast and the Furious, Too Fast, Too Furious, Fast and Furious, and Fast 5, in what's a really nice and well-edited recap, and it plays a great song from Wiz Khalifa. And this montage is really nice. It highlights the stunts, the relationships, and the best parts of the previous 4 movies. You'll notice Tokyo Drift isn't in this montage because it takes place after Fast and the Furious 6. Now Justin Lin is back to direct. This is technically his 4th movie, but 3rd in the series that he's directed. We cut to Luke Hobbs. He's looking for a terrorist called Owen Shaw, and he has someone who looks like Dominic Toretto in custody. He goes in to interrogate him and pretty much destroys the room along with the guy. And it's like, we get it, you're extremely strong, but you just destroyed concrete and a stone table. So at the end of Fast 5, Luke Hobbs gets word that a team who's highly coordinated and precision drivers have stolen some military equipment. Now, it turns out to be Owen Shaw and his team, and Hobbs has no choice but to recruit Dom and his team to take them down because they're the only ones skilled enough to stop them. Dom asks why he would help Hobbs, especially after fighting him in the previous movie, and Hobbs shows him a picture of Letty. Apparently, Letty is alive, like we find out in the last movie, and that she is working for Shaw and his team. So Dom calls up Han, Giselle, Tej, and Roman, and they all come to Spain and listen to what Hobbs has to say. Now Brian says full pardons all around, and Hobbs agrees, saying he can do his best to get that for them. Now it's interesting with Han and Giselle, since they're together now, and in the previous movies they tease going to Tokyo, and Han talks about wanting to settle down with Giselle. And they say they will go to Tokyo, hinting at the next movie. Now, even though Brian, Dom, and Mia and Elena are in a paradise, they say it doesn't feel like home. It's because they're not in California and Letty isn't with them, and there's something missing in their family. Now, Brian puts it perfectly. This time we're not dealing with cops or drug dealers, we're on a whole new level, and that is true. They were essentially hired to stop global terrorists, which is the biggest thing Dom and his team has ever had to deal with. Now, Hobbs shows Dom and his team what Owen Shaw's team looks like, and it's like looking in a mirror, but only warped. They're essentially fighting their own doppelgangers, and this is the first time Dom and the team have had to fight anyone resembling their set of skills, and it will be their most challenging fight yet. Now, Dom and his team go out on their first mission against Shaw and his crew, and they are very unprepared, since they're dealing with people who think like themselves. One of Shaw's team has some sort of device that's shot and can power down cars. They shoot Roman's car and Tej, but when they get to Brian, his is about to activate, but he knocks it off driving near a street lamp. Now, this is a reference to Too Fast, Too Furious, when they shot those harpoons that power down cars, so he was prepared this time due to previous experience. So I thought that was an interesting callback. Now, Shaw has 2 flat cars that are custom built, and they have little ramps on them. They're very flat, and they can launch other cars if they get too close to them. Now, these driving scenes are pretty well shot and believable because these are real custom built cars. Now, the ridiculousness starts as Hobbs is in his truck, and there's Shaw's team are lower down on the highway, and he jumps out of his car onto another car off of a bridge. First of all, with the speed they were driving, he would have landed on the pavement and died. And second, just landing on the car itself, he would have died anyway. But it's Hobbs, and he's made of stone, so I guess it's fine, but it's pretty ridiculous. Now we finally see Letty for the first time in years, and Dom tries to get her to come back and tell her who she is. Letty shoots Dom, but only in the shoulder, but Dom isn't going to give up. A lot of this movie involves Dom trying to have Letty remember who she is, and Letty just trying to realize who the good people are. Since Shaw's team doesn't really care about human life, they only care about precision, and Dom and his team care about family, so she realizes where her heart truly lies. Now, there's another DSS agent played by Gina Carano, and she fights Letty. Now, this is a pretty good fight because it features two powerful women, and it proves how much of a badass Michelle Rodriguez is. And this would start a trend of Letty fighting other females in future movies as well. Now, throughout this movie, it doesn't really feel like a Fast and the Furious movie. To be honest, it feels like a bigger action movie or a Mission Impossible movie, since they're hired to solve problems that no other people can. So we've really gone away from street racing and cops. Now it's revealed that Han is truly in love with Giselle and wants to settle down with her, and that's where the talk of Tokyo comes back again. Throughout the movie also, Giselle does increasingly dangerous stunts that gets Han nervous. While trying to find the person who built the custom cars, they interrogate him and find out that Shaw's been working with Braga. Even though Braga is in prison in America, he's still controlling things, and it turns out that Shaw made Braga who he is by introducing him to a bigger world. So Brian goes back to America and interrogates Braga to figure out what really happened to Letty. It turns out when she got in that car crash in Fast and Furious, the explosion made her have amnesia. So Shaw found her in the hospital because Braga told Shaw, and that's how Letty was running with Shaw. Now, throughout this movie, Brian O'Connor fights a lot of people off. When he's interrogating Braga, they let in a bunch of inmates, and Brian fights off multiple inmates at once. Now, since he was a cop for over 5 years and an FBI agent, he would have learned more advanced hand-to-hand combat skills. So his fighting skills have improved since the first movie, which is a nice gradual progression. Now, while Dom is trying to get Letty back, they're playing this kind of cat and mouse game where they're egging each other on in street races and just trying to remember things. They show one street race in Fast and the Furious 6, and it's given the full attention it deserves. There's a big spectacle. They have the car groupies and the car girls. They show under the hoods, and it feels a little bit like the first movie all over again. Now, during the race itself, Dom is showing off, driving backwards, and trying to impress Letty. Now, Letty is impressed by Dom, but also is maybe starting to remember. Now, once again, they race on open streets like in Fast and Furious, but they still show the entire race and the crowded city, and it's nice to see the Fast and the Furious movies actually giving attention to street races and not just brushing them aside for bigger action plots. Now, after the race, Dom and Letty start talking, and Dom says how he knows Letty so well, and they share scars, and Dom tells her how she got all the scars on her body. Now, Dom also gives Letty back her cross necklace that was hers in the previous movies. Now, Letty is very conflicted at this point of the movie, not sure whose side she should be on, Shaw's or Dom's. To prove that she's with Shaw, Letty gives the necklace to Shaw and says it means nothing. Now, Hobbs has been getting along with Dom and the team very well throughout the movie. They crack jokes, and Hobbs kind of feels like family at this point. And this will play bigger into future movies as well. Now, up until now, in about half the movie, all the action scenes have been either conventional driving on streets and street races, which are believable, and a lot of actual fight scenes, which are well choreographed and shot. Now here we get to the two big, ridiculous action scenes that will really set the scale for future action in the Fast and the Furious movies, and will start to really defy gravity and physics. Now, Shaw has been trying to steal this computer chip that can hack all technology at once, which is kind of impossible, but we'll believe it now. And there's a military convoy that Shaw and his team are after. Now, Hobbs and Dom and everyone else know this, so they're set up on the highway where the military convoy is going to be. So, Owen and Letty attack the convoy, and Giselle and Han have motorcycles while Brian, Dom, and Roman are in cars. Now, when Shaw and his team break out of the trailer of the military convoy, it turns out there's a tank. Yes, we're using tanks in a Fast and the Furious movie. Now, Shaw drives the tank on the highway. He's mowing over people in cars. They're getting flattened. It's clear they're killing people. But since Shaw is an international terrorist, it's not out of the realm of believability for this type of movie. But it's still ridiculous. Now, Tej created these harpoon guns with high tensile cable in it that can stop anything really strong. So they use it to try to latch onto the tank, and Roman ties the harpoon tinsel to the tank because the tank's right behind the car he's driving, and it's on the back of his car, so it's getting flattened slowly. Now, Brian drives up, and right as his car is about to get destroyed, Roman jumps off the hood onto Brian's car. Now, once again, feels like an action movie, but it's remembering that you're watching a Fast and the Furious movie. Now the tank is dragging the flattened car on a string, and Brian has an idea. They're gonna push the flattened car over a bridge that's coming up, so that way it hangs and possibly stops the tank. Now, at this point, Letty is ordered by Shaw to try to get the harpoon line off of the tank, and Dom sees this and is worried about Letty's safety. Now, as Brian has pushed the car over the bridge, it pretty much stops the tank short, and it flattens the tank a bit, and it launches Letty. Now, Dom is seeing this as he's driving. He somehow calculates in his head the exact speed and velocity he needs. He gets out of his car, he's on the hood as it's driving. He crashes his car into one side of the bridge and launches himself and somehow catches Letty mid-air and lands on a car on the other side of the bridge. Now, for one, you're gonna miss probably because physics, but apparently Dom learned physics and velocity sometime in the last 5 years. And now Letty says, "How'd you know there was a car to break our fall?" And Dom says, "I had to take a chance because I love you and stuff." So this is really starting to sway Letty over to their side, since he has questionable judgment about Shaw, because Shaw doesn't really care about human life, and he realizes that the people that they're after do. So she's starting to really choose sides now. So it turns out Dom, Hobbs, and the team have captured Shaw and their crew. Now, you would think the movie would be over, but Shaw has kept reminding everyone that he can get to anyone anywhere and that he's always 2 steps ahead. Now, Shaw tells Brian to call Mia, and it turns out that 2 of Shaw's team have kidnapped Mia and her daughter. Shaw says in exchange for their safety that they all have to be freed. Now, Hobbs says if you let them go, then things like amnesty and pardons for Dom and the team go with them. And the British agent in charge says that you can't sacrifice one person for millions. Now Hobbs points a gun at him to show that you can't sacrifice people. So now when Shaw and his team are leaving, Shaw says, "Let's go, baby," and everyone assumes that he's talking to Letty, and then you see the DSS agent played by Gina Carano walk with Shaw. It turns out that she has been the mole inside the DSS and has been giving Shaw all the information about the team and stuff. So now Letty is left as her team has abandoned her, and she finally goes back to Dom and the crew, even though she doesn't remember things, but she feels it's what's right. Now, as Shaw and his team escape to the runway where they are near, a big cargo plane appears on the landing strip, and now we're about to view the final big ridiculous action scene of the movie. Now, they try to figure out how to take down the plane, Dom, Hobbs, and everyone. They're going to use the harpoons with the high tinsel wire to possibly pull down the plane, since part of Shaw's team is still on the ground trying to stop them, and Mia is on the plane along with Jack and the other two crew members from Shaw's team that kidnapped them. So as Shaw and his team have gone onto the plane, Dom and Brian also drive onto the plane with Hobbs to try to get Mia and Jack back. Now the pilots say they're too heavy and they need to let go of things, and also to try to stop the other cars trying to pull down the plane with the harpoons. So there's about 3 cars attached to this plane. They're trying to pull it down with the harpoons, and it's still too light, so 2 of the cars are like hanging from the plane attached from the harpoon. Mia eventually gets out and drives a car with Brian to pull down the plane, so there's now 3 cars, and Giselle and Han are fighting off one of Shaw's team, and Giselle actually sacrifices herself to shoot someone behind Han. Now, she falls off of the car onto the runway, and she's dead because they're going like 100 or so miles an hour on this runway, and if you hit concrete, you're just going to go splat. So now Han's love is dead, and he's extremely upset. So now on the plane, it's Shaw and the big guy from his team against Dom, Hobbs, and Brian. Now also Letty and Gina Carano are there, and Letty and Gina Carano have their final match, where it turns out Gina Carano is near a hatch on the plane, and Letty shoots her with a harpoon gun. Now she's really dead because she goes flying out the hatch of the plane, and you see her just kind of hit the pavement at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So now Dom and Hobbs fight off the big guy. Now it takes 2 guys to take this person down. The Hobbs also uses some WWE moves because he's played by Dwayne Johnson, so he would know that. Now I get that Brian learned improved fighting skills over the years because he was in the FBI and police for 5 years. Now, how can Dom take on these big guys with actual military training, because he's just a street fighter and he doesn't really know much in terms of fighting, but he's Vin Diesel, so he can fight anybody, I guess. So with the big guy down and Gina Carano dead, it's only Shaw left, but no one knows where he is on the plane at the moment. So Hobbs, Letty, and Dom are trying to get off the plane now. So Hobbs jumps down onto a car driven by Tej. Now, first of all, he wouldn't have jumped straight down into the car. He would have been sucked backwards since he's on a plane going 150 miles an hour, and he would have just smashed on the pavement. Now, when Letty's trying to get out too, she jumps down too, and she's even lighter than Hobbs, so she would have gone flying as well, but we'll just ignore that for now. Now, once again, I'm bringing up the implausibility of these action scenes, because in regular action movies, they wouldn't be given a second thought, but since these are still Fast and the Furious movies, and given their origins, they're just pretty ridiculous for the physics of this world. So, Dom is about to get off the plane, and he sees Shaw trying to get to a car. So he goes to stop Shaw. The two fight, and Dom ends up throwing Shaw out of the back of the plane, and we see him fly out into the darkness, so he's dead, I guess. We never see him again. So now the plane is about to crash because something was thrown in the engine, causing it to catch fire. The plane is about to crash on the ground, so Dom finds the computer chip that Shaw had in his car. He gets in a car, and we see the plane crash and explode. And is Dom dead? I don't know, but all of a sudden, a car flies out of the fiery wreckage, and we see Dom get out of the car, and he's fine, doesn't have a scratch on him. Once again, I'm bringing up the implausibility of these action scenes because we go back to the first movie when Dom is trying to get Vince off the truck. He's bloody and hurt, and by the time we're in Fast and the Furious 6, he's jumping out of flaming planes and cars and doesn't have a scratch on him. So he gets out, he has the chip, and we see the wreckage of the plane as the camera zooms out. Now, the speed at which the cars and plane were going, and given the amount of time this action scene takes place, let's say it's about 15 minutes, they're on a runway the entire time, which means that this runway would have had to have been about 26 miles long. Someone on the internet calculated it, which is about 8 times longer than a standard airplane runway. So let's just throw that out the window, I guess, because we're in Fast and the Furious, because that's just insane, and I'm at a loss. So now that the computer chip is recovered and the bad guys are dead, Hobbs tells Dom to name his price for saving the world. And all Dom says is 1327, which is his old house number in California. So then we cut to the house as it's restored with fast cars in the driveway, and Dom has his old Toretto garage shirt on. Now, everyone seems happy except Han, of course, since Giselle is dead. Now, Han says he's still going to go to Tokyo because it's just something he has to do. And there's a big family gathering, everyone's happy and laughing. And so Dom goes up to Hobbs, and they're standing like this close to each other, like in Fast 5. They're almost about to kiss, it looks like. And Dom says, "Not bad for a cop." And Hobbs says, "I never would have thought I'd trust a criminal," implying that they have mutual respect for each other and that they're friends now. So, as they're sitting down to dinner, Roman eats some food first, which means he has to say grace. So he says, "Thank God for bringing our family home, and for bringing Letty back, and for fast cars." Now, Dom is talking to Letty, and Letty says she doesn't remember, but it feels like home, implying that she's now in the right place again. Now, you see Elena back with Hobbs because she's going to go work for the DSS with Hobbs. And now we have the most awkward conversation in history. And Dom watches as his second girlfriend now gives Dom back to his previous girlfriend. Now, I know it's what Elena would have done to get her husband back, but you gotta be really cool and just, I guess, give up a year of a relationship and be completely fine. Like, you would still have feelings to get over, but she's cool with it, so we can get her out of the picture because Letty's back, so we gotta forget about Elaine now. Now, during the house gathering scene, when Hobbs shows up, Roman says, "Do I smell baby oil?" And Hobbs says, "You better watch your big forehead," or something, and this is an actual spit take that Tej gives because he was laughing in real life, and it's cool that they left that in the movie. Now, as the credits roll, we cut to Tokyo, and we see a scene that if you haven't seen Tokyo Drift would spoil that, so we're not going to talk about that now, but I will address it in the next video. So that was Fast and the Furious 6. It definitely really upped the ante in action, even though it felt normal for a typical action movie, but for the world of Fast and the Furious, it really upped the action and lack of physics and gravity. Now, Justin Lin does another great job directing. He's really made this franchise one of the top grossing Universal franchises. It's directed beautifully. It's interesting still that this movie was even made because technically they were done at the end of Fast 5, but they brought back Letty, so this is now, I guess, the end of the story, even though they continue, but we'll talk about that next time. Now, once again, I would give Fast and the Furious 6 3 out of 5 burgers. I can't give it more, even though it's a great looking action movie. But for Fast and the Furious sakes, it really goes off the deep end. And it still gives the proper attention to the one street race in the movie. But once again, there's only one street race. This is the last movie that takes place before Tokyo Drift. So now Han is on his way to Tokyo, and Dom and Brian and everyone else are still in California living a nice life now. So they're pardoned, they're free people now. A lot of the character development was trying to get Letty to remember who she is and realize her good morals stand out over her amnesia. And this is the first time that Dom and the team have had to fight people that are like them and have similar characteristics. And this will happen again in future movies, but once again we'll talk about that later on. This is also the first time that we acknowledge previous villains being connected to the current villains, like with Braga and Shaw. And that will play a bigger part in future movies as well. Alright, well that was Fast and the Furious 6. I hope you enjoyed it. And next time we will tackle Tokyo Drift. So I'm Scott Berger, and I'll see you next time.